My name is Michael, and I need to tell you something it took me most of my life to understand. I built a business worth over $150 million. I had the titles, the awards, the penthouse, the flights that skipped security lines. People called me driven. Industry blogs quoted me. Ambitious founders asked how I did it. But here, what never made the headlines? While I was chasing growth and status, I was slowly losing the people who mattered most. And when the truth finally hit me, there was no rewind button. I'm 74 years old now. The company is gone. I exited years ago. The money is still sitting there, but I would give every dollar to relive a few ordinary days I chose to miss. And if you're telling yourself it's temporary, just one more push, one more milestone, listen closely, because I believed that too. I was convinced sacrifice meant success. I was wrong about everything. Let me take you back to 1980. I was 31 years old, newly married to Laura, and standing at the edge of what I believed would become a remarkable career. I had just walked away from a stable job to launch my own company with borrowed money, a tiny rented office, and an obsession with proving myself. Most people thought I was irresponsible. I thought I was committed. I was determined to show everyone that the risk would pay off. The early years were relentless. 12-hour days became routine. 16-hour days weren't uncommon. Weekends vanished. Holidays turned into workdays with better lighting. I missed dinners, birthdays, anniversaries, and countless ordinary moments that never returned. Laura said she understood, or at least that's what I chose to hear. She would say, "This is temporary. We're building something together." And I believed her because believing her made it easier to keep choosing work. I truly believed that once the company stabilized, everything else would naturally improve. Once we hit our first major milestone, I'd slow down. Once the revenue was predictable, I'd be home more. Once we hired enough people, I'd finally have balance. That promise carried me for years. It also became my favorite excuse. In 1985, our daughter Olivia was born. I was sitting in a conference room when Laura went into labor. I answered the call quietly and told myself I'd leave after the meeting ended. I arrived hours later. I missed the birth. I told myself it didn't matter because I would be there for everything that followed. I meant it in that moment. I just never followed through. I missed her first steps. I saw them later in a grainy video. I missed her first day of school because I had a presentation I couldn't postpone. I missed weekend games, school plays, and afternoons that could have been ordinary memories instead of regrets. I was always nearby but rarely present. One memory refuses to leave me. Olivia was 6 years old. She walked into my home office holding a paper crown she had made in class. She waited quietly while I typed. I raised my finger, asking for a moment. She stood there, then gently placed the crown on my desk and walked away. Years later, I found it folded inside a drawer. Inside, she had written, "For when you're finished working." I don't remember what I was working on that day. I remember the crown. By the early 90s, the business was thriving. Investors were calling. Revenue climbed into numbers I once thought were impossible. We bought a larger house, better cars. I told myself this was the reward. We took our first real vacation in more than a decade. I remember standing by the ocean feeling proud, relieved, and strangely hollow. Something had shifted. Laura had built routines that didn't include me, friends I barely knew, conversations that didn't need my input. Olivia was growing older, quieter around me, more comfortable without me. I felt like a visitor in the home I paid for. I told myself it was temporary. Once things settled, I'd step back in. I kept waiting for that moment. In 1999, Olivia left for college. I helped carry boxes into her dorm room and tried to joke about how quiet the house would be. She hugged her mother tightly. With me, the hug was quick and polite. That same year, Laura told me she was done waiting. She wasn't angry, she was exhausted. After nearly 2 decades of being alone in our marriage, she chose herself. I had no argument. I had chosen work every single day. I moved out and returned to the only place I still felt useful, the office. After the separation, the company grew faster than ever. Bigger contracts, industry awards, magazine profiles. People asked about my discipline and ambition. They wanted my secrets. I never told them the truth. In 2008, my body forced a pause I never allowed myself. A heart attack. Late at night, alone in my office. I drove myself to the hospital because there was no one else to call. Lying there surrounded by machines, I realized I had built something impressive and completely empty. I sold the company a few years later for more money than I could ever realistically spend. On paper, it was the ultimate success story. In reality, it marked the beginning of a long silence. I was in my mid-60s with financial freedom and nowhere meaningful to be. I tried to reconnect with Olivia. Weekly calls, occasional visits, effort that came decades too late. Time doesn't work that way. You can't retroactively attend childhoods. You can't rewrite absence. We were polite, respectful, but we weren't close. We didn't share stories or inside jokes. We didn't have a history built together. That was on me. When Olivia got married, she asked me to attend. I was grateful just to be included. I walked her down the aisle, standing beside her as cameras flashed. During her speech, she spoke about her mother, about the sacrifices Laura made, about the support she never questioned. She thanked me for coming, that was it. I was acknowledged the way you acknowledge a guest. That night, alone in my hotel room, I cried for the first time in decades, not because of the divorce, not because of the company, but because I finally understood what I had lost. Here is what took me 60 years to learn. Success means nothing if you reach it alone. Money means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Achievements mean nothing if the people you love feel like strangers. I see younger men making the same mistakes I made, working endless hours, missing dinners, missing bedtime stories, convincing themselves it's temporary, that they'll make it up later. They won't. There is always another goal, another promotion, another deal. The finish line keeps moving, while life moves on without you. If I could speak to my younger self, I would tell him this. Leave the office earlier. That meeting can wait. That email is not urgent. Your child's childhood is. Your marriage is. Your presence matters more than your performance. Work will always be there. Your family will not always wait. The people you love are on a clock. And you don't know when it runs out. Today, I live quietly. I read, I walk, I volunteer. I have more time than I ever imagined and fewer people to share it with than I ever expected. No one from my company remembers me. The deals I stressed over don't matter anymore. But Olivia remembers every time I wasn't there. Those moments shaped her. They defined our relationship, and I can't undo any of it. That is the cost of success when you choose it over everything else. I'm 75 years old now. I live alone in a small house near the water. I have more free time than I ever thought I wanted. I read books I once meant to read. I travel without schedules. I volunteer just to feel useful. But most days I sit quietly and think about the life I almost had. I think about how I confused achievement with meaning. I thought success was money, titles, and numbers on a screen. I was wrong. Success is presence. Success is relationships. Success is being there when it matters. So if you are watching this while staying late at the office again, I want you to pause. Close the laptop, turn off the phone, go home, sit at the table with your family, ask your kids about their day, watch something simple with your spouse. Be there fully, because I promise you this, 20 years from now, you will not remember that report, that meeting, or that deadline. You will remember whether you showed up. And if you are thinking, I'm different, my situation is special, what I'm building really matters, I thought the same thing. Every person who makes this mistake thinks they are the exception. We are not. We all believe we have more time than we do. We all assume the people we love will wait. They won't. Time does not pause for ambition. I learned that far too late. Do not tell yourself you will fix it later. Later is a lie. Later is how you miss birthdays, dinners, conversations, and years. Choose differently now. Choose to be present. Choose your family while you still can. Because at the end of your life, nobody will care about your job title or your income. But the people who loved you will remember whether you were there. If this makes you uncomfortable, that is good. Discomfort is where change begins. If it makes you want to do something differently, do not ignore that feeling. Act on it today. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Today. Time does not care about your plans. It keeps moving forward without asking permission. One day it will run out. Leave a comment and tell me what you are choosing differently. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And then close this video and go be with the people who matter, because in the end, they matter than anything else.